In this lesson, we are going to learn how to solve two-step equations. In order to solve a two-step equation, we need to undo the order of operations in reverse order. So if you remember, in the order of operations, we use PEMDAS, parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, and subtract as the order in which we solve. But in order to do a two-step equation, we have to undo it by starting with our adding and subtracting, and then moving to our multiplying and dividing. So let's take a look at a problem here. 13 equals 1 plus 4s. So if I'm going to start with my adding and subtracting, I'm going to notice that on the side with the variable, I have a positive 1 here. The opposite of a positive 1 is a negative 1, so I am going to subtract a 1 from both sides of the equation. A 1, take a 1 away, is a 0, so all I have left on this side is 4s. 13 minus 1 is 12, so now my new equation reads 12 equals 4s. Remember, 4 is the coefficient, s is your variable, and when they're next to each other, it means you are multiplying them. So now we need to use the opposite of multiply, and we're going to divide to get our variable by itself. And we always divide by the coefficient, so we're going to divide by a 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1, so I have 1s, which I'll just write as the s. And then 12 divided by 4 is 3. So my answer 3 equals s. And just like in previous problems, we have shown that we can put that answer back into our original equation and we can check. So if I take 4 times 3, I get 12. I add 1 to it, it gives me 13. I know my answer is correct. All right, let's take a look at the question in the middle. First of all, I want to look for the side that has my variable on it. And I'm going to start with adding or subtracting. I notice here this says a minus 5. So the opposite of taking 5 away is adding 5. So I'm going to add a 5 to both sides of my equation. The negative 5 and the positive 5 form a 0, so those are going to be gone. And all I have left on this side is a negative 3y. 10 plus 5 is 15, so my new equation reads negative 3y equals 15. The negative 3, my coefficient, is what I'm going to divide both sides by. So I'm going to divide by negative 3. Negative 3 divided by negative 3 becomes a 1y, so I just bring down my y. And then 15 divided by negative 3 is negative 5. Let's check and see if we're correct. I'm going to put my negative 5 up here for the y. Negative 3 times negative 5 is a positive 15. 15 minus 5 is 10. My answer is correct. In our last problem here, we're going to notice that we do have a rational coefficient. We've got a 2/3 as our fraction. So let's go ahead and get rid of our positive 1 here by taking a 1 away from both sides of our equation. Opposites make a 0, so those are gone. And I have 2/3 n, and it's equal to a negative 8. If you remember from our last lesson, whenever we have a fraction for our coefficient, we are going to multiply by its reciprocal to get the variable by itself. So the reciprocal, we're going to flip that fraction over, and then we have 2/3 times 3/2. A number and its reciprocal equal a 1, so we have 1 times n, which is just an n. And then on this side, we have negative 24 over 2. Multiply the 3 times the negative 8 and the 2 times the 1. When I simplify that, I get a negative 12. So negative 12 equals n. Again, let's put it up here, negative 12. And 2 times negative 12 is negative 24, divided by 3 is negative 8. Negative 8 plus 1, negative 7. My answer checks. And that's how you solve two-step equations.